And good morning. This is your friendly neighborhood Tironan, and today we're going to be looking at the XP-44 rocket. And the first question that you're going to ask me is, tell me all about the history of this tier, and that's going to be easy. There really isn't one. They started off with the XP-43 Lancer. They had a few of those aircraft that went to China, but they went without a lot of things that the U.S. considers really necessary, like self-sealing fuel tanks, armor for the pilot, and they had a nasty habit of leaking from the fuel tanks. So about 1944, the Chinese nationalists had their XP-44s traded in for something that was actually useful. Might have been tough to fly those aircraft. But in any case, the XP-43 was used as a training aircraft in the United States and wasn't used in combat very much, if at all. It was used somewhat in the China theater, of all things, and by the Chinese nationalists there, with somewhat mixed success because of the lack of protection features. Nothing like flying in a plane that's leaking gas, huh? Yeah. Okay, so moving right along. The XP-44 was an improvement that was proposed, but they already had the XP-47, which became the P-47, and it moved right along and became a very famous fighter. So there you go with the history of the aircraft. A little bit about the aircraft itself is the survivability. And this is a absolutely unmodified aircraft, except to get about a couple of bombs put on it, so it could fulfill a ground attack aircraft role on it. Okay, so as it will sit, we'll have four 50 caliber machine guns, and the gun armament is going to be 162. That's not as bad as it sounds because they are machine guns. They don't overheat, and you don't have to deal with the overheat mechanic on the 20 millimeters. And that's pretty positive. On the bad side, you're going to have airspeed that's somewhat low. Maneuverability is not awful, not for this type of aircraft, and it's a multi-role, so it does. These two aircraft typically do not have the turn and burn, and it sits below them, but it is a lot better than some of the national lines that you'll follow, and altitude performance is middling. Let's go to battle. And Tier 5 gets a little tougher than Tier 4, as you'd expect, and those of you that played the game will have noticed that. And so we'll see how it does, because this is a brand new aircraft. I've never flown it before. It's going to be a first-time experience for us both. Let's talk about a little bit about the role I expect it to play, which is to be I'm going to use the bombs on high-value targets because they are the 500-pounders. They can lay a hurt on just about anything. So when we go after command centers, here and here, I'll be going after the antenna arrays. And that's the quickest way that I know to capture these centers. Forward airstrips, places you can spawn from. Remember that each of these centers gives you 3 points. And if you collect enough centers, it's how you win the game. I'll go ahead and go on to battle, since looking at the map gets boring pretty quickly, and we'll just go right on ahead with this and wait for the timer to go on. Alright, so actually a couple of these were built, but they never advanced much beyond the prototype stage, given that the XP-47 was looking like a much more promising aircraft and went on to have one hell of a career. One thing that is not being reflected in the game, for you historians types, is that you're not going to find a lot of the high altitude things that this and its predecessor and most of all its successor were famous for. Especially the P-47, but even its predecessor, the P-43, were giving very good performance at altitude because they had a turbocharger. Now in the 43's case, it wasn't a turbocharger that particularly worked well. Had a lot of bugs they were working out. And the Air Force didn't have a lot of interest in having it as being any more than a trainer, since they had the P-40, which was a very nice trainer, or a very good fighter. And while some people would call it mediocre, Its combat record was far better than was being admitted to. Let's see how it does as a fighter. I've gotten some rounds on target here. Dives pretty well. And at least that's one fighter that will say, yeah, the guns work okay. Alright, we got this. And you notice the first bomb strike, by the way that I laid it out when I dropped it, if you were paying attention there, contributed quite a bit to that. So we very quickly have a base, and we have two bases, and we have two caps, so we're off to a good start. You ever have a question, hit your Alt key, and you notice we're already gaining an advantage. If you keep them long enough, it becomes quite an advantage. Alright, now something is coming up in the fact that we are very quickly going to have enemy bombers up here. And the self-defense fighters will help with that with some degree. These are going to be heading for our airfield. And we can make a little bit of a difference here and use our guns. Now you do have a good boost on this. And don't do my common mistake, which is I get in here and I lay on my boost constantly, and then when I really need it, I don't have it. So learn from somebody else's mistakes. I was always told that was the wisest kind of guy. Use your boost when you need to use it, and otherwise leave it alone. And you notice against these, they're heavy, medium bombers. I'm sorry, they got 2 engines. There weren't a whole lot of bombers that would have classified as heavy bombers that had 2 engines. There was one that was called, the German aircraft that was called the 177, I believe. And it actually had 2, and we've got a couple aircraft. Finally managed to overheat the guns a little bit on this. Alright, so we're coming right along. How much more damage we can take, I don't know. And let's just pull off. There's no need to keep taking that kind of damage. We'll get down, let some of the other aircraft have it for a while. There's plenty of them down there. And sure enough, there are people picking on our base while we're busy. And we don't like that, do we? Alright, so I'm going to use, hopefully, our guns here in a minute. And so, 189C. Now, the guns here are pretty good. They don't overheat that well. That was kind of an extreme case when you're sitting behind a medium bomber with 4 machine guns. It takes a little longer to get them in most cases, but that bomber stream is all but done anyway. It's not going to do a lot of damage to our airfield regardless. But I do want to make sure that we go get the next wave here. And they're probably going to kill me for lack of hit points here, and the fact that my cannons haven't been upgraded.
The threat to the complex eliminated. Way to go.
So you have that lovely long burst because of the machine guns. If you let off on them for just a second or two, you can actually keep them from overheating. And to the degree you can, you want to keep the other aircraft out of range. So, one of the things you can do is you can team up with another aircraft. You're not going to get the joy of the kill by yourself, but you are making the most of you and the other aircraft's firepower. And that poor fellow just is gone from the defensive fire of these things, and I'm going to join them. Alright, but our area now has a flight of 3 with 1 heavily damaged. We'll go ahead and regen here and make good use of this aircraft and try to contribute a little bit to the team. Now, this is a multi-role fighter, so you can use those 500-pound bombs, as you saw earlier, where we very quickly captured a base, made good use of it, and moved on. And I can come right back into battle here. And I am actually looking around to see if those aircraft are still around or if they've already gone on their way. And I'm thinking they've already gone on their way.
Be advised, a line of thunderstorms is approaching.
And we can hit the key here.
Do you copy? Over.
Take a look around, see if there's anybody else around just in case I missed them. And then you see they're skyrocketing to the heavens. And presenting a performance envelope that you will not see again anytime real soon. Alrighty, let's move along and we'll try to take us out a bomber here. I'm going to go ahead and focus on this fellow right here. Come on around. You know, some maneuverability, while it's not everything you want, is not all that bad. And we're going to chew him up to the degree that we can. Okay. And he's down to 2 aircraft, and they're coming very close to capturing the base, so we really want to chew these guys up pretty quick. You don't want to ram them, however. You only have 3 lives, 4 lives, something like that. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time. And they're done. Okay, we are still maintaining our lead here. Again, we're going to check the alt button, 519 to 423. We're doing okay, but we're going to want to take out this next bomber. Get as many as we can before they blow us up again. Now remember, if you let these bombers come in unmolested, they will absolutely take out your base, and it will switch allegiances, and you'll have to capture it back. And that will cost you cap points. And we don't want it to cost us cap points. Alright, again, as soon as the plane turns red, you do a forward pass, and you want to make the maximum use of hitting them forward. The forward firepower on a lot of these bombers isn't that great. And when they're streaming behind, their defensive firepower isn't matched up well with the rest of their aircraft. And now I can use all that lovely boost I saved when I really need it, and I need to catch up with these bombers. Well, I don't, because we ran out of time and we hit enough victory points to do it. Alright, so what did we do? Well, we saved our base. We caught and got a base very early on, which contributed all throughout the entire video to adding to our victory points. It is important to remember that capturing caps is what wins you this game, and keeping them, which we did very successfully. Let's go on back to the hangar. And had a little success here. Came in third. Got us ourselves some silver. Start making up for what we spent on the aircraft here. Came in with 1 sector that we captured. Killed 7 aircraft. Assisted with another 2. Team score came up with 3. Yeah, not too bad, right? Okay. Let's move right along here. We have the survivability is good. We've gone over the altitude performance. Not a bad aircraft overall. And as it upgrades, this should get a lot more ferocious because you pick up another pair of machine guns. And to do that, you have to research this, which is the airframe. And then it gives you a whole bag of goodies. The airspeed alone picks up 13 points, which is as good as some of the engine upgrades you're going to get in at least some of the aircraft. Yeah, here you pick up 22, and here you pick up 45. Wow, that's going to be quite a jump. Let's go ahead and do that, and you can take a look at it. And so we picked up some more maneuverability. Airspeed comes up a little bit. Altitude performance. Let's go ahead and pick up this. And now we have 6 machine guns, and we're up to a very decent gun armament. One of the big failings in the aircraft, as you noticed, was just that we were going to have to, that you had to hang around back behind those bombers way too long. I didn't have that, chew through that you see with a typical sextet of 50 calibers. Now we will. And when we come up to the 2 engine upgrades, eventually we'll be up to 621, and that's a pretty nice improvement, especially for a Tier 5 aircraft. This should be a very successful aircraft. It's not going to be a turn and burn. You're not going to hang with a 0 in a closed furball. Don't get me wrong. Okay? Same with the Spitfire. They're going to run rings around you. But for getting your guns on the aircraft, getting a good long burst, keeping the gun sight on the aircraft so you get effective fire, this should be a very good aircraft for you. And I suspect that I spent some money accelerating the pilot to 90 is not going to do me a whole lot of good because he's not going to be in the aircraft very long. This is a good aircraft. This will get the job done for you very quickly. And there you go. There's a review of the P-47. Its role is going to help you capture an airbase. It can knock down bombers. It's going to be very good against other multi-role fighters, heavy fighters, anything you can get your guns on and that's less maneuverable than you. And there's quite a few things out there that are. Most of the multi-roles are going to be less maneuverable than you are. And you'll find some good roles for the aircraft. It's not invincible, but it's a good aircraft. And it's got some extra survivability there, and you should find that useful in staying in battle too. Listen, y'all have a good day. Don't forget to like the video, and please subscribe. I can use all the subscribers I can get. I feel very blessed that you all are watching, and you have a great day.